Have you ever dreamed of something incredible? Whether it's buying a home, traveling the world, or securing a very comfortable retirement, the journey for your dreams into reality starts today. Join us as we break down some actionable steps that can make your dreams come true. The first one we're going to look at is setting clear goals. Now, when it comes to setting clear goals, this is the basis for turning those dreams into reality and knowing exactly what you want to achieve, writing them down, breaking them into very specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound or SMART goals if you're familiar with this. So we're going to break this down and kind of understand exactly what it is, and I'll go ahead and share a couple of goals out here. So first part is being specific. So when you think about what you want to accomplish, instead of saying, I want to save money, I want to pay off debt. We have seen that so many times where if you do not have something in place that is very specific and having kind of a time frame around it, it really doesn't make much of a difference, and it could just be and remain that dream that you're talking about. So when we think about this saying, I want to save $10,000 for a down payment on a house within the next 3 years, that is very, very specific. Saving your $10,000, you know exactly why you're saving money. Every dollar you put away, everything you're saving from your paycheck is going towards that down payment of the house. And we know we're on track and we want to have 3 years to do this. Makes it incredibly concrete. You can even break it down to, okay, if I want to save $10,000, I have a 3-year runway. I have how many, periods that I'm going to get paid. How much money do I have to save every single paycheck to hit my goal of that $10,000? Now, the second one we look at is measurable. This is how we are going to define our progression. For example, tracking each month to ensure you're on target. If you have some months where you don't hit target, you're a little bit behind, you can actually plan it in with the measurable aspect. You can start catching up in a couple different ways. And again, if you have some unexpected expenses, you can catch this up a little bit further. Now, 3 is achievable. It has to be realistic, really with your current resources and constraints, whatever it may be, where you can't say, I want to save $100,000 in the next year, and you're an individual that's making $40,000 a year. The probability to save $100,000 on a $40,000 salary probably is not going to be there. Has to be achievable, has to be realistic. And again, all you're doing, if you do not set this and your goals are not achievable, you're really setting yourself up for failure from the very beginning, knowing it's a goal that you are not going to be able to achieve at all. Now, the fourth one we look at is relevant. This, make sure your goals align to those long-term plans, aspirations. What do you want to do? It has to be relevant. This is going to hold you accountable to how you're going to achieve this goal. And the final one is time bound, establishing a timeline with deadlines to keep yourself accountable and also building in milestones. When you start thinking of that $10,000 goal and you start breaking it into those payments, let's say every time you hit 3,000, let's say when you hit 5,000, you can celebrate a little bit knowing you're 50% to your goal. It almost creates, again, kind of the tracking mechanism to achieving these goals and really changing yourself and changing the way that you're viewing these. Now, the second one we look at, which is super important, is saving and really financial planning. So when you start saving today, financial planning is essential for turning those dreams into the reality, setting aside a portion of your income and savings, making regular contributions on retirement accounts. Small, consistent efforts will really add up over time and bring you closer to that dream. Now, this is super important. And one thing that I really say is automation. I cannot stress it enough when it comes to 401ks, when it comes to HSAs, when it comes to IRAs, when it comes to even that emergency fund, setting up funds that are going to automatically go to the places that it needs to without you having to do really minimal to no effort really makes a big difference. Now, to break this down, we always start, and me being a financial counselor, we start with budgeting. Now, creating a budget, tracking your income and expenses. And I know a lot of people kind of cringe when you talk about a budget, but when you think of a budget, when you think of a savings plan, there are so many different ways you can kind of break this down, but you have to know the money that's coming in. You have to know where the money is going out. That's it. This will give you the ability to identify either where places that you can earn additional income, might be a side hustle like what we have here on YouTube. You can also look at different places where you can cut back some of those expenses, redirecting those funds towards retirement account, really going and changing up the way that you view money. Budgeting is the very first step. Now, the second one in here is that emergency fund. This, again, is a big focal point that people need to, and there's a reason why when it comes to financial educators, when it comes to counselors, financial advisors, there's a reason why we all talk about the emergency fund. This keeps you from going into debt. Debt is by far the most expensive thing you'll ever see. If you have a credit card at 25%, I don't know any place that is going to guarantee a 25% return on an investment. That is the reason the emergency fund exists. And you also have to tie it to a true emergency. You can reason with yourself, you can lie to yourself, but if it is not a true emergency, you are just using money that you shouldn't be. Now, we're aiming for 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And now, of course, first part, you have the budgeting. You know exactly how much those living expenses are, so you can kind of plan what 3 to 6 months looks like. Now, for me personally, 3 months and 6 months can be incredibly different. The way that I look at building the emergency fund is depending on the stability of your job and what kind of field you work in. If you have income that is very variable, that is sales orientated, that is commission based, I would probably lead a lot more towards the 5 to 6 months. If you have a blue collar job that you're kind of set on a 9 to 5 schedule, I would probably aim for 3 to 4 months at least of living expenses when it comes to that emergency fund. Then we get into the next one, which is retirement accounts. Now, these are contributions going into your 401ks, your IRAs, your HSAs. And the first thing you're going to focus on here is taking advantage of your employer match. If your employer offers anything at all, match that at a very minimum. I would even go through and do my 401k match if they're matching 4%, 5% before I'd even do the emergency fund. What we see traditionally is when it comes to really budgeting, when it comes to building the emergency fund, is people will spend months, even years building an emergency fund to get that 3 to 6 months. And of course, they're missing out months or years of the matching, which of course is a 100% return. If you're putting in 5% and they match 5%, you're getting 100% return. Now, of course, there is not another place that offers a 100% return. Even looking at, the emergency fund and not having to borrow at a high interest rate, retirement accounts, 401k matches are an absolute priority. And then, like we said earlier, the last one in here is automation. Automation is the biggest thing that I feel that people really overlook. When it comes to your savings account, when it comes to retirement accounts, automatically will ensure consistency when it comes to those contributions. Definitely have to start saving today. Regular contributions into those retirement accounts do make a very big difference. And the final one we're looking at is professional advice. Now, for me, professional advice, navigating the financial landscape can be very challenging for individuals. You don't have to do it alone. This is where financial advisors, financial counselors, a lot of people can have a really personalized approach to getting through and knowing about your financial options, making informed decisions, and really maximizing the opportunities that you have. Now, I take this with a grain of salt because you have to be very careful with this step. Looking at a financial advisor, you almost have to think of it as a job interview. You have fiduciary advisors who act in your best interest, but it also is a place where you can really have some issues with people, and people can get sold things that they don't need. I've seen it. I've worked at financial institutions for 17 years now, had a multitude of financial advisors, some of them incredibly a great wealth of knowledge, always did what was the best for the customer. Some of them, not so much. They got kickbacks, they got rebates, they got free trips. I've seen them go on cruises by selling them out a certain amount of products or services that might not have been in the best interest to the people that were selling them to. But if you're like me and you do financial counseling or you're looking for a financial counselor, we're completely free, which is awesome. Most of your credit unions do offer the financial counseling services. And of course, if you have questions, guys, you can drop them down below. But this also talks about regular check-ins, scheduling meetings with your advisor, review your progression, know that you're on track, and educate yourself. This is super important when it comes to YouTube, when it comes to reading books, attending workshops, looking at financial news. Reliable sources are the key. When you think of everything that we do here on YouTube, and if you like the content I'm putting out, definitely subscribe to the channel. But the more knowledge that you put in, the more beneficial it's going to be for you, and the more that you're really going to get out of it. When I started looking and started my financial journey so many years ago, started going to school, started a lot of my finance classes, started in financial institutions working with financial advisors, and overall, the wealth of knowledge that I've gotten over a multitude of years started long before that. When I was little, when we had to budget, when we had to really manage every single dollar, makes a big difference. But knowing exactly the information is out there, and almost everything that is out there is completely free, just like YouTube, just like a lot of Audible books. A lot of it is completely free. The last one we look at is diversified investments. This is something that I talk about a lot in this channel, is the investing aspect. when it comes to S&P 500 funds, when it comes to those ETFs, you can really diversify your entire portfolio with one single ETF. And it is really that easy. People try to make investing super complex. They make it, super difficult, hard to understand. And I feel like you can simplify that entire process with just index funds. When we think of Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors that I've seen in my lifetime, he says everyone should own S&P 500 funds. And I completely agree with him. If you look at like a Vanguard Total Index, the VTI, when you invest in it, you're investing into every single company in the United States, instant diversification, which is kind of crazy. So guys, overall, turning dreams into reality really requires some dedication, some planning, and some action. Setting those clear goals, saving diligently, seeking professional advice can really make your dreams come true. Remember, the power to achieve your dreams and really financially educate yourself is in your hands. So starting today, watch your dreams become a reality. And if you like the content that I'm putting out, definitely subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video.